I want to talk here about the work we're doing towards the proposal essay. Now, the proposal essay is going to be your last essay. It's going to be the one that's worth the most points. And we're doing it piecemeal, bit by bit together. You're sort of imitating me, and I appreciate that. Thank you for doing that. You might not like where this is going, or you might have another idea, or you might just flat out disagree at the end. But I'm asking you to imitate this and just put it together this way. It helps that we do this so that you're not using AI to create something, and which the department is like completely against. But I just want you to model for you how I would do it. I actually believe in this idea. I think it would make a great article. I know I'm never going to write it. By the way, if you want to write it, go ahead down the line. I think it would make a great master's thesis. But I asked you to go ahead and look at the signs that you see on Google that people have posted concerning, people holding up the sign, the cardboard sign, asking for money. Now, I want to say one thing right now. I want to remind you that sort of as a shorthand thing, right? Sort of as a, I don't know. I'm calling these things homeless signs. Okay. Well, obviously the signs aren't homeless, the people are. But in fact, I don't even know if the people are homeless. Maybe they do have a home, and this is just they're panhandling, right? They're begging, they're asking for money. So there's an issue there, right? How do I know these people are homeless? I'm running with the phrase homeless signs just because it just, I don't know, it just came out, right? But if we want to get a little more rigorous, I don't think that label is going to hold water. Now, I know we're dealing with signs that people hold up, usually at street corners. I know the signs are almost always made out of cardboard, okay? But I want to challenge you. Can you think of a better name for this type of sign? The name cannot be too technical that it's dumb. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the name itself goes overboard. It's got to fit. But I think we can find a better name than just homeless signs. Because again, I don't know if these people are homeless or not. I suspect that many aren't. Okay? Begging signs, is the word beggar acceptable these days? Is it going to turn people away from our writing? Is it going to be an obstacle to some? I don't want to always be turning away from good vocabulary based on that, but are there nuances and connotations to the word beggar that your audience might not appreciate? I don't know. I personally wouldn't call them begging signs. But, what are we going to call this? So I want to challenge you with that. I would love to hear some of your ideas. I think I'm going to, we'll see where this goes. Okay. But that is an open question. I don't have something planned about this. Okay. Now, if you have a really good idea, text me and let me know. Okay. 330-256-1703. That is 330-256-1703. You're a local English teacher. No, now watch me get a new phone, right? And then I just time dated the video, you know what I'm saying? More or less. Anyway, the point is, I want to know, okay? But text me, email, see what you can do with it. I really don't have, right now, I don't have a phrase in mind. Now, what I want us to do now, though, is I asked you to categorize these signs. Sometimes you get the military themed sign, right? Sometimes you get the religious themed sign, like the God bless. Now, I'm interested in that because there seems to be kind of a, this homeless person, there we go again, right? But this person on the corner is asking that I give him something, and they're asking that God bless me, right? And because material is involved here, this is money, there's a monetary exchange, the blessing does seem to kind of relate to a material stance, right? But then I'm like, well, you need the blessing. Obviously, I have more material than you, if you're going to define blessing that way. Now, that's a superficial way of defining blessing, but that is sometimes what people think. And I'm like, why are you asking God to bless me? He needs to bless you. He hasn't blessed you. There's kind of a tension there, right? That on the surface looks like a tension. I think someone with a deep theology might be able to contend against that and point to Job and all sorts of things, the book of Job, but in the Old Testament. However, There are religious signs. There's military signs, religious signs. There's the, I don't know, I'm a head of family sign, like have 4 kids. They're just talking about, hey, there are more people that I'm a family, and you need to help a family. You're not just helping me, you're helping kids, right? Maybe that's a separate category. Now, there's another category where there are jokes, right? There's humor. Now, I'm not saying every one of these signs has humor in it, but I would say what? What would you say? 1 out of 10? 1 out of 20? Is it 5%? Is it 10%? The jokes might be dumb, but some of them are not that dumb. They're pretty smart. Some of them work. And nevertheless, if there's an attempt to humor, right? I want to put it in that category. So I got these categories. Now remember, I'm thinking, what can I do with the time I have, with my resources, with my energy, to really be able to research something, to write something that creates interest, maintains a reward, that's somewhat relevant, and that also is a contribution. Now, I don't want to do something that's going to cost me a lot of money, that's going to take a lot of time. I don't have time to dedicate that sort of time to dedicate to this. So for me to investigate the God bless you thing, you see what I'm saying? I might have to actually go back out there and interview, which was the very thing I tried to avoid by focusing on the signs rather than the reasons why someone's on the street corner. Remember the first video. So I don't want to get back out there and interviewing, because I'll never be able to interview enough so that I have a good representative sampling. I can't just interview 1 or 2 and say that they represent the community, right? And for me to interview at least 15 or 20, it's just way too much time, right? So I'm going to have to leave that behind. I think the best look for me, the best approach right now, given the fact that if I were doing this for a class, I probably have like 6 weeks left, and or less, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, I don't know. And I've got other stuff I'm doing, right? I'm going to focus on the humor thing, because I know that there's a lot of research on humor, types of humor, how humor can affect your health. We value humor. So I know I can look into the psychological concept of humor, and maybe find something that I can apply to this type of signage. In fact, I actually am thinking about what's called gallows humor or black humor. Okay, so if you never heard that phrase before, gallows humor, that's the type of humor someone does when they're about ready to get strung up. They're on the gallows and they're cracking jokes. Now, we don't hang people anymore, but there are still places in the world that do. But if you look back in our history, okay, if you go back 2,000 years and you look at that whole line, 500, 1,000, 1,500, and different Western countries, oh yeah, you're going to find a lot of hanging. All right, a lot of as a form of national execution, okay, or head being chopped off at the guillotine. Nowadays it's more like it's capital punishment, right? And people that somehow start making jokes in capital, in this situation, these are the people that are going to die, and they're laughing, they're telling jokes. And you can see this in Shakespeare. I would say just read some parts of Titus Andronicus, okay? Because it doesn't always have to be like a nationally sanctioned punishment, like capital punishment. It could be just someone going through an extremely traumatic time, and they are so overwhelmed that they actually start laughing. They get hysterical. They start making jokes. So black humor, gallows humor, the dark humor, is a very interesting concept here. I want to research it, right, to see what it might tell me about the humor that these people are maybe employing. And there's stages of this. There are different versions of this, right? This type of humor, because when you're at war, and when you're facing this extremely, as a soldier in a battalion, and you're facing death, it could be that day that you die. Humor abounds. It abounds, right? I'm not saying everyone's telling jokes, but what I'm saying is that it still is there. You're always going to get this gesture presence. I shouldn't say always, but it's very often there. Okay, And I think many of the major thinkers, as they were creating fictionalized scenarios here, bring that in, realizing that this is part of it. How does this play? How does this play with the homeless situation? Because if you look at the homeless situation, it's pretty hopeless, it's pretty dire, it's pretty straining, and it's a burden not only to those that are going through it, obviously those, but also the community that suffers it, that allows it, that experiences it in terms of the community that has homelessness in it. The people around it are also stressed and conflicted. They don't want tents on the sidewalk, but they also don't want people to, not have a home, but they don't want the tents on the sidewalk. There's this tearing, this ripping up of the fabric in terms of the way you think of the world. And it's a strain. So to what extent does humor help act like a pressure valve? Okay. Now there could be larger questions that we can ask, like when we laugh at a joke, what does it mean about community? How is humor used to diffuse tension in an audience? Like, let's say you go to an audience and you have to deliver a speech, or you have to take questions, or you're at a debate because you're in a campaign, and if you start making that group laugh, what did you just do? How did you unify this? How did you diffuse? What does humor do to an audience? There's research, there's writing on that. There's writing on dark humor. There's writing on humor as a rhetorical device for unity. There's all sorts of things we can look into here. So I think it's a very fruitful approach, And I think a lot of the work on humor has already been done. My original contribution then was to take that work and to apply it to a new area, the science that we're looking at. Okay, so now that I've got this kind of idea, what I want to know is, has anyone written about humor and the homeless? So that's what I want you to research, okay? Now I want you to go back onto AI or Bing or Google or whatever, and just ask or type in the search query, humor and homelessness, humor and homeless signs, humor and I don't know, but see if anybody has written on this, okay? And write down the titles or whatever, a few of them. It's especially the ones that relate to what we're talking about, because I'm going to ask you to have that list ready, okay? So please note the ones you find. Try to find at least 3. If you can't, you can't. That's not a bad sign. But if what I'm saying is, if you start finding some and you find 5 or 6, you don't have to write all of them. If you find 100, that's crazy. Now, if I were doing this professionally, I would have to look through all of those. But what I would like you to do is just look through the titles and see if there's anyone that obviously relates to what we're talking about. Okay? So the idea here is, I've got this idea brewing in me, right? I want to somehow apply humor and the way we use humor to how we're reacting to homeless signs, because they're on the signs. Obviously, that's put there by the person who made the sign, but we take a picture of it and then we put it up onto social media or online somewhere. I'm going to look at all of that, but I'm interested in how we respond to humor this way. Okay, how humor is sort of the outlet, and we're the plug, and we put it in and we feel this energy, and they know it. That's why they put the humor on the sign, right? So I feel like I've got something I can write about there. I just want to make sure no one else has already written about that. You see what I'm saying? Because I'm trying to write for the real world. I want to create interest, maintain, and reward it. I don't want to be a parrot. I don't want to do something that's already been done, right? I want to grow my originality. I want to be an original voice. And, to be original doesn't mean that you come up with like E equals MC square, To be original, it just means that you have a relevant observation about something that no one else has made yet. Okay. So has anyone talked about the humor in these signs? See if you can find something out there. Okay. That's what I want you to do with the proposal essay at this point. Hey, thank you for watching.